Okay, I'll look at the Kickstarter. Hi, I'm ED-SKaR, and even though I haven't made a video on any of the Tanith First and Only in a little while, I'm still well known enough in that community that when this Kickstarter here showed up, I have been inundated with a handful of messages about it asking me to have a look. And so even though I'm not going to go neck deep into this, I will have a look and show off for you guys what is on offer. This is the first and unique regiment of 3D printable models for tabletop wargaming. And this is by Mr. Blackmore, which is a cool name. I find it interesting that Mr. Blackmore is French, and the English name for First and Only is First and Only, and the French name for First and Only is Premier and Unique. And the name that Mr. Blackmore has gone with for this Kickstarter is First and Unique. We shall see more of that sort of naming convention as we go along. I don't want to focus too much on that kind of thing because I'm not a lawyer. I'm sure this is all legally distinct and so on and so forth. But I'm just going to have a look at what's on offer here and just talk about the Kickstarter on a surface level. And so, on the surface level, what is it? Well, it's a collection of STLs for 3D printing. And I can talk about this other times. If you don't have a 3D printer, you can ask a friend who does have a 3D printer. Every gaming group's got one guy with a printer. I'm that guy at mine. But the base STLs in this set are for infantry. And we actually see something that I always like and I mention every time it pops up. That's these are multi-part kits. And we need more of them because 3D printing a solid block doesn't always work. There are so many disadvantages there. Sure, it's easier when it works well, but you don't have the options of kit bashing, and you don't have the options of kind of reprinting single pieces to fix if there's some kind of error in the print. But the base set here has a bunch of the torsos with the arms and the standard rifle included, and they are quite a range of different poses, and they really look to be quite well detailed. We've got various details around the cloak, around the shoulders. There is a separation between the cowl and the main part of the cloak. I think it's a cowl. We've got the brooch as well. In the books, this was the cap badge, not a brooch, but Games Workshop have included that in some of the plastic models, so that's perfectly valid. Bunch of different options for heads in different styles, as well as some with hoods up, which is nice. And a few different options for legs. Now, if this was the only set, I would probably mention that that's not a great variety of legs. They're all kind of standing. We've got one kneeling legs, but later on there are some other options that you can mix in, so that's actually not too much of an issue. But here we see the sample squad, and just the basic set. There's so much variety in there. That looks interesting, just like that. Sculpting looks great. The options are there. I genuinely think that if this goes through, this will be one of the better options for 3D printing for this particular style of model. But it is not just the infantry, because there are also some characters and some other options. Now, the characters are single piece, monolithic, I would usually call it, rather than multi-part, so you don't have the options as much as with the infantry. But for characters, you would expect to only print one of them. I would still like to see the arms and stuff like this as separate pieces. Have the head separate so that you can put a different head on it and make a different character. That would be interesting, but that's fine. Having it as it is. They do have mention of some free STLs, and I have downloaded and printed these for the video today, and I'll be painting up one of them. We have Marth, who is a sniper with an augmetic jaw, and that's a monolithic character model. And we also have one of each of the pieces for the infantry to make an infantry soldier. So I have them printed off as well. And even just having a quick look, we'll have a proper look in a moment, but just having a look at the quality of the prints is pretty good. I've got a much better printer than I used to have, but also the quality of the sculpts, which is of course the point of the video. There's a lot more detail going on here than there has been in previous both physical kind of resin cast and similar bits, and also 3D printed options. So the kind of the detail going on here is kind of more what you would expect from modern 40k models in comparison to the stuff that is more in line with the older 40k models. So keeping up with the style of the time, as it were, is pretty good. So let's have a scroll down and see what other stuff they've got. They're of course showing off that they have printed out each of the pieces to make sure that it works. That is a problem with some 3D modelers, that they'll create a part, not necessarily test print it, and then put it up for people to download or even for sale. And then when people actually try to print it, there's some glaring obvious problem that would have fallen out on a test print. 3D modelers really should be doing, and they're just kind of showing the due diligence that they have done that. They also have their painted section, and it looks like it's by Paint Core Studio up here. And I almost don't want to paint mine for the video today because, yeah, I can't paint this well. Mine aren't going to look anywhere near this good. They look fantastic. Black uniforms with the green cloaks. I do kind of like how I paint my cloaks, but the black uniform's always been something that's a little dull for me. We have a few more options. We'll see these models further down the list as we go, but basing's also better than mine. It's just everything about these is better than mine. Showing me up in my own video, God, really. I like this one, the little woolly hat, very Scout Trooper kind of style. Right then, some more characters. We have Verl. The names don't get any better as we go down, guys. Stick with it, stick with it. So we have Verl, who has a bionic arm. I believe in the books he had a bionic shoulder, and the rest of his arm was actually still the original biological kind of original part of his body. But in this case, it just looks like it's a fully robotic arm, which might happen if the support systems fail and the rest of his arm doesn't survive. Gaunt Sarok, who's yelling into a pineapple. Oh no, he's looking at he's looking at one of the capsules. Oh, okay. I hadn't realized that's what that was. Oh man, if you ever start reading these books, there are some just punishing bits to read. Yeah. So that's a lovely little message capsule that this guy's reading. You can paint that up as a little map or something else if you wanted. Cool option. And we have some special weapons. Flamethrower, plasma rifle, and some direct energy beam weapon of some description. And these are going to be compatible with all of the legs and all of the heads, pretty much from every other part of this as we go down. And speaking of parts that are compatible with each other, it seems like pretty much this entire set, like everything on this Kickstarter, if it's multi-part, it's going to be probably mostly interchangeable with all the other multi-part sets. I'm sure there are some individual combinations that might not work, like this flag, for example, might not fit on a certain set of legs because it would get in the way or something. But for the most part, all of these legs, and these are kind of boring legs in comparison to the ones we saw earlier, but that's not a problem. You just pick the legs you like. Some more head options, some different poses. There's a comms option here, there's a flag option here. Options are options, and options are good. I was confused the first time I went through this because we've got chainswords and pistols and there aren't any yet, but they are further down. So let's carry on and find those. So I didn't want to directly compare this set with the official stuff, but when it comes to Dardin here, this pose is exactly the same as the pose of the Perry Miniatures Dorden model from 2002, which is one of the models that I really like. I modified mine to not have the pistol, and it would be nice to see an option without a pistol for Dardin here, given that Dorden only ever fired a single round from one pistol in one book for a very specific reason, and otherwise doesn't go armed. But it's actually a really good model. Just has to be said that plenty of detail going on. We've got kind of medical scissors, the bags. He's even kind of reaching back and holding onto the bag, which is kind of a nice way of showing the weight of the stuff that he's carrying. Yeah, it's a good model. I like that. Hector Kark. The names, my dude, the names. It has been noted that Victor Hark's left arm is bionic, not his right arm. However, it would be quite easy to mirror this model and have the correct arm be the bionic arm. I'm not sure why that's a problem, because you can just click one button in the software and it mirrors it. It's easy. There's just click, 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 click. Easy, done. But speaking of mirroring, all of the other options, the arms and the legs, if you want different options, mirror them and you have a bit more variety, particularly when it comes to having left-handed soldiers, because what, 12% of our current population is left-handed? Probably a similar proportion of people in 38,000 years are going to be left-handed. Include some, I dare you. Here we have a bunch of special weapons, some more special weapons on top of what was shown earlier. In some cases these are the same ones in different poses, but importantly we now have the flamethrower and the sniper rifle, and those are the classic ones for the Tanith. There have definitely been cases in the books and in the comics where Tanith use melters and plasma guns. I'm pretty sure there is at least one reference somewhere to a grenade launcher being used, although I haven't been able to work out where that was. It might just be my memory playing up on me. But just because they're specialized in certain things doesn't mean they don't use the other ones. It's just that they're specialized into using certain things, and those certain things are flamethrower and sniper rifle. So we have those options here, and that is good. They might not be the best for tabletop gaming. It just isn't the point of having a Tanith First and Only army. You're here because you love the books, and if you love the books, you're going to do it the way the books say. So have a few plasmas and melters, but you want to focus on flamers and snipers. Another character and a sweeper. I don't know if there's any rules for combat engineers in current 40k, but just having a cool model in a squad. Just call him a standard rifleman. It doesn't make any difference in terms of that, but it looks so cool. And he's got his sweeper set, stuff on the arm with wires and stuff. Cool model. And of course we have the bug eyes from his prosthetic. Bran Willow. Bran Willow with the bagpipes. And oh man, the bagpipes is the cool one. It really is. The bagpipes is the cool one. And even though I'm not buying this set, and even if I did get the set, I probably wouldn't be printing many of them. I've just got a couple here to paint as a sample for the video. I would genuinely consider painting a slightly larger version of Bran Willow. Go up to Inquisitor scale, 54mm, much bigger model. Have that as a display piece. You spend all the extra time painting that to the best of your ability and put that on your shelf. That would be a cool thing to do. I actually do have a 54mm Tanith soldier. I'll get around to painting them eventually. Bran Willow here would be... I can't say that name without laughing. The bagpiper here would be a good option for that, but also painting one at 32 scale for a command squad, or just to represent something in an infantry squad, even just a standard rifleman, again, just like Damar here. Just because a model has some specific extra bit of equipment, if there's no rules in the game for it, they're just a rifleman with some aesthetic extra stuff, which makes them look cool, and that's the point. Here we go, like I mentioned earlier, the pistol and close combat weapon options. Chainsaw, power saw, power glove. Last pistol, what looks like an auto pistol, might be a bolt pistol, and plasma pistol. Now, here's something I've noticed about this set, because when modeling cloaks, particularly when you want to keep things multi-part, you have a couple of options. One is to have the arm separate at the shoulder like the plastic model kits are, or the older model kits used to be, and then having the cloak be very narrow over the shoulders and just flare out over the back. And that's fine, but it really does look cooler when the cloak is over the shoulder down the bicep, as the ones in this set are. But that means that it becomes very difficult to have modular arms, particularly at the shoulder, because that's now underneath a molded part of the cloak. So what they've done here for their close combat options is actually model it with a ball joint in the elbow. And I think that is probably the best option for what they wanted to achieve, and it's good that they still have included the multi-part nature of this kit in the kind of the sergeant's options. We are actually getting towards the end of the unlocks now. Okay, heavy weapons. And now, with the heavy weapons options, again, modular, multi-part, compatible with the earlier stuff. And so these kneeling legs, you can have a sniper with these kneeling legs, you can have a sergeant kneeling down and reading a map, you can start to be really interesting with how you want to do stuff, but you can also have your heavy weapons teams with the standing legs from the infantry and have them like they've set up their heavy weapon on a wall rather than on the floor. You have options there. You have much more interesting things to do. But it seems like we have missile launcher, mortar, las cannon, autocannon, and heavy bolt gun, bipods. So we have another couple of characters. Bolt Hein, I think that's how that's supposed to be pronounced. I'm sure people are going to be joking about that hand pose, but stop it. Another radio operator, good to have. Even if there's no specific rules for a radio operator, it's going to give you at least a different sculpt from the radio torso that we saw earlier. And the Night Wanderer, Ezra, which is actually really cool, although I'm not 100% convinced. And the reason why I think it's really, really cool is because in the books, Ezra is described as being moth-like in certain ways, in terms of his cloak, in terms of his kind of face paint, camouflage paint. But they've actually included in his cloak this kind of moth wing sculpt. And I think that is really cool. That's genuinely an interesting way of doing it. What I'm not convinced about is the mag crossbow. It's not quite how I imagined it, and the hair and this ridiculous moustache might actually be accurate, but not 100% how I was imagining the character. But again, the quality of the sculpt is really nice. The fact that they've added the moth wings means that there's clearly some attention being paid to the characters, and I just appreciate that. It's a really cool model. If this is kind of how you imagine Ezra to be, that's a good option. And just a couple of accessories for heavy weapons, ammo packs, a pickaxe, just a normal pickaxe. I might just put in here in the video, right here, I made a little while ago an axe rake, actually looking at all of the references to axe rakes in the books, of which there aren't actually that many, and trying to work out what an axe rake would actually be in context, specifically as a mining tool that a miners on a hive world would have. If Mr. Blackmore wants to get in contact and talk to me about maybe licensing off that, I sell it for 49 pence for downloads, but we can obviously come to an agreement to include it. I don't think that Mr. Blackmore is ever going to see my video, let alone agree to anything like that. Don't worry. But yeah, this is just a pickaxe and a spade for entrenching heavy weapons, so that's fine. It doesn't have to be the axe rake. But also ammo for the various guns, and a radio pack. Didn't realise that this was here. Well, there you go. There's all of the options you ever want for your radio men, for your radio operators, right there. Just superimpose that in the software over any torso, and you can have any pose that you would want. You also have a normal rucksack here. Same thing for them. Although for heavy weapons teams, you can often just put this on the base, kind of propped up against some of the scenery on the base. That's a cool effect as well. All right, another character. We have Brastan with the heavy flamer, and honestly, I just like this model by himself. He's just pretty cool. Honestly, it just is. I do notice that it's a little bit of a shame that this is the only heavy flamer in the set, which means that if you want to have a heavy flamer or multiple heavy flamers, you can only have this one model if you go for this. So it would be nice to have these arms separate, please, so that we can have this as a kind of include this with the other multi-part options to have more heavy flamers. But Brastan's big burly dude with heavy flamer, gotta love it. Fragor, Fygar, I'm going to go with that as the pronunciation. Another cool option. I would actually like, again, talking about the multi-part nature of stuff, this specific torso with the hands like this would be a cool option to include with some of the other bits in the set. I do like it like this, kind of stepping forward, last gun over the side. It's a cool looking set. It's a cool looking piece, but having these arms in different options to include those in the multi-part bits would be nice. But it's a character model. It's by itself. It's monolithic. Oh look, some walls. Yeah, okay, this one's cool. Tina Crowd. Tina Crowd, oh dear. Okay, so the naming is continuing on in the way that it's continuing on. I love stoic, powerful, standing around models who have weapons but are not in a kind of threatening or dynamic kind of pose. They're just confidently relaxing, waiting for something to happen. The Perry Miniatures Toner Creed model, exactly that. I've also done several other similar kind of models over the channel and off the camera over the many years I've been painting models. I do like that, and this is a good example of that. Rifle over the shoulder, knife just held loosely at her side. That's great. And we also, even though it's underneath this little sticker here, have some female head options, which is just good. Yes, the women of Vervenhive and of Belladon as well. It's nice to have them included. Merhain, who seems to be rubbing his wrist. I'm actually not sure who this is supposed to be. But we have a rolled up cloak. And I've noticed this on a couple of the others, that we've got the shoulder part of the cowling of the cloak, but the main part of the cloak is rolled up. There's a couple of options like that. And ED-SKaR. This is one that we've been waiting for. When I first saw this, this particular one was actually hidden. It's still locked at the moment, and there actually isn't a price on this. Some of the others are still locked with a price on there. We're actually on the teetering edge of getting the female options unlocked. I really do want that option unlocked for people. But the next one here with these two characters isn't specifically listed as a price. There's still plenty of time. That is as I'm recording, obviously. Things will change by the time I finish editing and publish this video. Things change in the future. That's just how the future works. But no price specific list on this. But Ka is, of course, a character that we have been waiting for. And this is such a sinister character. And they've done a really good job of capturing that. Kind of his arm here holding, kind of flicking his cloak out behind him, and holding the knife in not like a stabbing kind of pose, but just in this very threatening kind of, oh yeah, by the way, I've got a knife kind of pose. It fits the character really rather well. It does. Can't deny that. And the last one here, Mac Vonner leaping off of a tree. And honestly, everyone who does McVenna does him leaping off of trees. I had him attached to a tree by the cloak so that his feet were all the way out in the air. I'm quite happy with mine, but this one is also really cool. And Zweel, is that spelled the same as Zweel? Hold on 1 minute. Huh. So for some reason, Zweel, they've not altered the name? Okay, I'm, again, not a lawyer, don't know anything about that kind of thing. But this is another one of those just cool models that just by itself as a crazy preacher with the robes and the scrolls and stuff. That doesn't have to be a Tanith First and Only model. That can just be a preacher dude. And the crazy looking face. They've done a really good job sculpting the faces, I have to say that. And that's kind of some of the other stuff in the set as well. But this Zweel is particularly well sculpted on the face. And the final milestone, which has been hidden for now, I'm not sure if this is going to be released at some point during the Kickstarter or after it finishes, but it's a Commissar's hat and a power sword. Don't know who this could possibly be. No idea who this could possibly be, but it is glaringly missing that one particular character hasn't been shown off. Commissar Ludd, very important. Just as we go through the last bits, there is an add-on for extra money that you can have physical prints ordered from the Kickstarter. They'll print stuff and send and post them out to you. I don't know exactly how this is going to work. Obviously, I'm not affiliated with this creator. I haven't bought anything from them before, so I can't say. I would also mention, again, I think I mentioned this earlier in the video, that some people in your local gaming group probably have a 3D printer, and if you buy them a bottle of resin, they might print you an army. Kind of thing. Or if you like give them some beer money, they'll print you an army. Swap something. There are options there. But for those who don't know anyone with a 3D printer, it's good that the Kickstarter is including this for those people. And then all the rest of the page is just the boring kind of how you get your stuff. So we'll skip over that. But let's have a look at the 3D files for the sample models, because I got those. And here we have Marth. I might just have to rotate it slightly. So here is a very close-up on what will be printed in a very small size. Is Marth with his bionic jaw. We have the lasgun with a scope on it for the sniper variant. I have noticed in this set that the sniper variant lasgun and the standard rifle variant lasgun are the same barrel length. It's just added the scope on for the sniper variant. But what we have is this really nicely done woodwork with the separation between the receiver and the barrel cluster. Yeah, the nullwood. It's really important for the Tanith First and Only, and this looks really cool. And what appear to be gaiters as well. Now, this is something that absolutely nobody except me cares about, but the original 2002 Perry set, and in many of the comic depictions, the Tanith First and Only wear puttees, which is a cloth wrap that goes around the top of your boots to stop mud and stuff getting into your boot. The plastic command set from 2021, I think, 22-21, had them wear gaiters, which is a single piece of cloth wrapped and buckled or strapped to basically around the same thing for the same reason, to stop stuff getting into your boot. And that is what they have represented in this set for 3D printing. There is a little aside that absolutely nobody except me cares about. And we also have the pre-supported version. Now, I have a little bit of a vendetta against pre-supports as a general rule. However, in this specific case, the pre-supports that they have created do happen to match my printer, and so these prints did come off really nicely. I did go with the pre-supports for the first time. So for the multi-part options, we have this very unhappy looking face, nicely sculpted, just unhappy. Nice little emo hairstyle, and the ball joint with kind of the collar all sculpted onto it, so that you can paint that in the uniform color, and that will help hide the join as well. And the torso listed as torso 3. We have a pretty cool looking cloak, and we even have the straps on the side of the cloak. I do like that as a feature. We have the lasgun, although in this case we don't have the wood in the middle, so this must be a Vergast trooper. And then over here, although I can't get it the right way up because this is weird software, we have the skull and wreath. Now, it doesn't have any of... Interestingly, in this example, this definitely is a Vergast trooper because there's no wood on the lasgun, and on the back of the skull and wreath is a pickaxe. Now again, it's not an axe rake. Talk to me about my axe rake, please. Go watch my video about the axe rake. This is just a pickaxe, but that's really cool. So this guy here is a Vergast trooper. And just snapping back to Marth for a second, he's got his cloak draped all the way over his back so that he can shoot his rifle, but his brooch, kind of the cap badge, it's not actually on the cap, so it's not a cap badge, but it's the skull and wreath with a single dagger. Now, I'm not going to get into the argument of 3 daggers versus 1. Both are correct. But here they're depicted just with a single dagger or with a single pickaxe, which is pretty cool. I wonder in the set, can't really see in the pictures here, but I'm pretty sure one of these has a pickaxe and one of these has a knife. A good addition that I hadn't noticed until now. So big props for them for including that in their sculpts. And of course, all these parts are pre-supported if you want them pre-supported. In my case, I said that I did go with the pre-supports, and in my case, they did work. 3D printers don't agree with each other, so it's not always going to work. Did I mention the legs? There's the legs, same as Marth, gaiters, knee pads, a few pouches, and the dagger, of course. So, now that we have that all finished up, I've got the 2 here. I've got Marth and the generic trooper. I think what I'll do is I'll paint up the generic trooper just for the sake of including that in the video. And so what I really should do is get straight to that. So I'm going to go off and paint this guy. Let's go. I will quickly mention assembling the multi-part model, even though it's hard to see in this white resin that I'm printing with at the moment. Oddly, the curvature of the torso and that of the legs aren't quite the same, meaning there's not a lot of surface area to glue. Now, it's not a big issue and it doesn't need Milliput or anything, just a big dribble of superglue will do the job. I found that the head fit a little better, but I think the neck seems a little tall, as if the sculptor has raised the head up to match the cloak, where a real person's head would actually be lower because the cloak is raised up on the shoulders. If you get what I mean, it's not really a big deal, and if it does bother you, you can easily superimpose these pieces in the software and print them monolithic. But I actually like the ability to pose the pieces to add variety, makes them far more interesting. Painting is of no real effort, and even though I haven't painted a Tanith in a little while, I do remember the steps that the rest of my army has. Starting with a cloak, a dark green with some simple green highlights. As I paint the rest of the model, I'll stipple on the various colours that I'm using to make the camo pattern. That just makes it really quick and easy. I wasn't totally paying attention to the sculpt at this point, but I was subtly noticing how well both my new printer performs, but also how well this model is sculpted. The folds of the cloak are slightly stylistic, with the cowl and the buckles. It really compares nicely to the plastic official models. My black uniform is boring to an extent, painted black, a harsh grey highlight, and then a black wash to hide the harshness of the highlight. This recipe was created after many attempts to make a good looking black, and failing miserably, and so I dropped down to an easy method instead. And as I was painting the uniform, I really was noticing the sculpt at this point. Not only are there the usual folds and pockets that you would expect, there's also seam lines sculpted in, and on the knee pads and the armour has all these nice little well-positioned details. It's almost a shame that my Tanith paint scheme is so basic, because it doesn't really sell the effect of the sculpt. The brown's next, and everything in the everything else category gets dumped into the brown paint category. Leather, wood, and of course the base coat for the skin as well. The metallics get black and then silver, and you should realise the nature of this paint job by now. The whole lot is the quick and easy way for pretty much everything. Separate the colours, basic highlight, very little else. But when I got to the face, I realised that this is the first face that I've properly printed from my new 3D printer. I've always avoided printing faces, preferring to kit bash on a plastic head if possible, as my old printer was terrible at fine detail at this level and I haven't got used to the new printer yet. But with the new printer, and on top of that the sculpt being really good, I put some actual effort into painting the face. Not a lot of effort, of course, but just more than I usually do. So as I finish up painting this model, I wanted to compare it to some of my other Tanith models. And the first really obvious point to notice is that he's pretty tall. Clearly a 32/35 model rather than a 28/32 that 40k models have been for the last 20 years. But that is because modern 40k models are getting bigger, and the 32/35 model will fit better with the modern models, especially as the official Tanith plastic models are all 32/35. So stylistically and in size, they match the modern plastics, which makes a lot of sense. But for those of us with older collections, they might seem a little big. But hey, look at this. It's easy to reduce the size of models in 3D printing. You just drop the scale by 5 or 10% and print them. That's it. We're in the future. It's that easy. So what do I think in conclusion? What I keep coming back to as I think of this model is the quality of the sculpting does seem very good. And on top of that, the sheer quantity of compatible stuff going on in the complete set makes for a single purchase that will give you an entire army of models with loads of variation. But there's also those really little details. The different variants of Laskan and Brooch for the Tanith and Vergast, and maybe Belladon. Sorik's message capsule, Ezra's moth cloak. There's just a lot of attention to detail that shows that someone behind this really cared. Overall, this does seem to be a fantastic option for the modern Tanith fan to create a tabletop army. I, however, won't be getting it. I'm also not affiliated with them, but I already have well over 100 Tanith models, and I don't play 40k, so I don't need any more. But it's nice that the landscape is still evolving, and more options exist for the modern player. So good luck with the Kickstarter. I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and thank you very much for watching. Alright, hold up for one quick minute. I was about to end the video there. In fact, I did end the video there, as you probably noticed from the end of the video. But as I was about to render it and upload it, someone pointed out that the last of the stretch goals have been now revealed. And we have the Lord Commander. I have so many Gaunt models at this point. I have all of the official ones and several unofficial ones. And so having another one is definitely not something that I need. But for anyone who doesn't already have an Ibrahim Gaunt, this is a pretty nice model. We have Commissar's cap, the wings of the eagle, but also the Tanith cap badge with the knife on it, which is a cool touch. The straight silver or a bolt pistol in slightly different hand poses. And in his right hand at the back, the sword of Hieronymo Sondar. I always thought that the Hieronymo Sondar sword would be a straight edge blade, and I don't know whether it's ever mentioned in any of the books. Off the top of my head, I can't remember whether that was mentioned. But we certainly have the appropriate uniform. This is the type of thing that would paint up really nicely, especially as that kind of slightly larger 32/35mm scale. But there is one last model that has been revealed. The Saint herself. Now, I wasn't expecting this, but this is a really cool addition to make. There are, as might be expected, the subtle elemental hints of the Saint Celestine model. And Saint Celestine is a model that a lot of people use to make Sabbat. I personally don't like that particular model. It's a bit too Sisters of Battle for me. And we've kind of got a similar thing going on here. We have that kind of boot plate armor and odd shoulder pauldrons that isn't to my liking. But this is a really cool model. We even have, I can't quite see it clearly in the render, but some kind of demon thing climbing over her shoulder, or is that just flames and fire? I don't know. It's just really cool. I love wings. This has been mentioned several times. I love characters with big wings. And I might forgive a lot of the armor just because of the wings. They're really cool. It's not just kind of a replication of a bird wing. This is a really aggressively kind of swept back. Just going to look really cool once that's painted. We also have some little skull things. Where are we at on the... So we're just shy of 10,000 English money, which means we're just ahead of 10,000 in European money, which means that the only stuff that is locked is these two last models, Gaunt and the Beatty herself, which means by the time this Kickstarter actually finishes, they're probably all gonna get released, which is nice. But yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in at the end. Nothing more to be said. This is just more options, which is one of the good things about this kit, and the quality does appear to be kind of carried over in these last two models. This is a really nice one, and I do need a Sabbat model. I haven't got around to working out exactly what I want to do with a Sabbat. I'm not sure if that armor's really what I wanted. Is that? I thought she had the Tanith logo on her belt, but no, it's just a skull. I mean, there's skulls everywhere. It's the Imperium. It's just going to be skulls. It's floating skulls, skull emblems, skull in a skull, skulls for the skull throne. Anyway, yeah, I've ended the video once already, so I'll end it again now. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.